Hi there. This might be a called it to some and a surprised it to none. I think I was the last to know. But I'm not straight. I'm queer. And I'm Christian. I didn't know that was possible growing up. So, I am queer. I call myself queer, I call myself gay, I call myself bi. If we were to use the exact terminology to describe my sexuality, it would be biromantic demisexual. And that's a mouthful though, and it doesn't matter too much, so queer is fine. And it took me a long time to figure myself out, and this is the story of how that happened. I grew up non-denominational Protestant Christian. I spent my whole life going to church. I got baptized when I was 9. Proper good girl devotee, biggest stereotype you could ever imagine. That was me. It was very easy to be a good little homeschool Christian girl for most of my life. It was just the normal. It's just, oh, you're gonna marry a boy, and that's it. I never questioned it, never thought about anything different until I discovered the LGBT community when I was in, I want to say my sophomore year of high school, where I finally was going on the internet more, and I discovered this thing, but I'd never actually heard of anyone who was gay. I'd never really met anyone, knew of anyone, like nobody. I was completely in the dark. And then I discovered that, and I went, oh, that's weird. And I was admittedly a bit homophobic. I'm not too pleased with that, but I was very ignorant at the time and I didn't know much about homosexuality or anything like that. I was fine where I was. I liked boys, and that's all that mattered. I was a late bloomer in a lot of ways. I figured out that I was on the asexual spectrum first, even though I didn't know about it. I never heard the word asexual till I was 17. But we'll get to that in a bit. I was in love with the idea of being in love, but had never been in love with anybody. It was an idea of something I was supposed to achieve, something I was supposed to reach, something I was supposed to have. And I wanted it because I was told to. I didn't really think about it much at all. So I craved it for so long. But also, at the same time, being a good little Christian, you weren't supposed to have sex. You weren't supposed to want sex or anything to do with sex. I was so good at that. Like, absolutely amazing. Never wanted it. Didn't really care for it too much. So I lived perfectly content with that for a very long time and wondered why we kept having series on don't have sex. Because every high school or middle school youth group goes through it at least once every 2 years. I was fine with it, and I didn't understand why it would be difficult for people. Like, it's not that hard. It's not even that appealing in the first place. I was fine. I had no desire to ever be with someone like that. I always found it very gross and uncomfortable. So, better off for me, I guess. Pass as a wonderfully wholesome, pure Christian girl. But I did discover I was asexual first. I was 17 when my sister was doing some questioning of her own and looking up things on the internet. She found 2 words, asexual and demisexual. Those words stuck with me. She described them to me and I went, oh my gosh, that is how I feel. I've never known the idea of what sexual attraction was. Like, one-night stands are still a foreign concept to me. I don't know how that works. But no, she found those words and I related to them heavily, but because I was still living in my own little shell, I didn't want to be associated with the LGBT as a good Christian girl. I just kept it and went, oh, this is like a word that described me, Like, I don't label myself with it, I just kind of relate to it. And I didn't refer to myself as asexual until 2 years later at a college party. We were joking, we were making gay jokes, probably, yeah, and I popped one off about an asexual joke, about being asexual, and my friends were like, huh, okay, nice, and like, that was kind of it, but it was the first time I had referred to myself as such, and I liked it a lot. Slowly existing, I switched between ace and demi a lot. I find they both typically apply to me, and I'm not that picky about terminology. I am pleased with how they describe me. And that's what they're for. And figuring out that girls are really cute. Oh, that was a much more extreme adventure. Asexual was like a very slow, easier to accept thing, because that was much more acceptable in the Christian sphere of staying single or not becoming married, like to focus on God or, something like that, or waiting until marriage, which falls under like demisexual, potentially. That was easy for me to accept within myself. But being bi is very, very different. So growing up, I got crushes on boys like I was supposed to, I did not figure out my romantic orientation till I was 20. And part of that, oh gosh, a lot of people typically figure out their sexuality like in high school or middle school. And there was one pretty solid reason as to why I don't think I got any crushes on any girls in high school. And that was the one crush I had the entirety of high school on a boy. Oof. I got a crush on a good friend of mine my freshman year, and it stuck. And dude, I'm so sorry. Thank you for still being friends with me to this day. So, I spent a lot of time on that crush and those feelings, and I didn't really leave myself open for new crushes, which was not healthy. It was a very unhealthy crush. But I was in the moving on process finally by the time I started college. And in my first semester of college, I got my first crush on a not boy. And I was so in denial. I had a crush on one of my classmates my first semester. And boy, did I think I'm the last to know. I was the last to know. Oh gosh, it's oof. I think everyone in the class could figure it out, and I certainly didn't. They actually had asked me, "Are you sure you're straight, Danielle?" They asked me that, and I said, "No, unfortunately." If you ever go, "No, unfortunately," or go kind of, "I wish I was gay," honey, you probably are. Honey, you probably are. Don't be dumb like me. I was a dum-dum. When they asked, "Are you sure you're straight?" that started my internal questioning. I just spent 4 years of my life completely head over heels for a boy. So, I can't be gay, can I? That's not a thing. I like boys. And I still do. Boys are very, very nice. I need to reiterate still, I would straight up say things like, if I was gay, I'd like her, or she'd be the one who would turn me gay. I was just gay and too dumb to realize it. My mom would make these faces at me when I would say that, and my sister would laugh. She knew I was bi 2 years before I did. Oh my goodness. That happened, and I did not become aware of that for a year or so later. I wouldn't realize. But during that time, in my early college years, I was finally becoming comfortable with referring to myself as Ace and Demi. And so I was inserting myself into LGBT spaces online and at school. So I finally had spaces outside my little homeschool groups, my Christian theater group, and my church. I had been so incredibly sheltered from the regular secular world that I had a crash course going through college and my job at the same time on how to just deal with people who weren't automatically Christian. That was a surreal experience for me. I had met maybe 2 non-Christian people before in my life. Suddenly, through work and being at school, and now having the questions going through my brain, I would see pretty girls, especially at work. If a pretty girl came in to buy whatever she needed, I'd see her and I'd acknowledge she's pretty. And for so long, I was like, no, I'm just admiring her as how another straight girl would admire straight girls. I was just so desperate to believe I was straight. I was so desperate to convince myself I was straight. That was how it was for a few years. Looking at online stereotypes, I fit so many gay stereotypes. I fit so many. I fit it so well, and I also wanted to be that. I was just so subconsciously desperate to bring that close to myself, but I couldn't admit it. For so long, I just sat in this state of being like, oh, I like this, but I'm not. No, that's wrong. I can't. I'm not. And I didn't realize how that was affecting my mental and spiritual health. I thought it was just finally being in a non-Christian space that my faith took a bit of a rocky patch when I got into college. That wasn't it. I was being so dishonest with myself that I couldn't bring myself before God. I was being so desperate to fix myself on my own. I had to be straight. I had to come to God as a good, straight person. I couldn't do that. So I just didn't come to him at all. Like, there were brief moments of like, he's still what I want. Like, I still want to be with God, but somehow it didn't feel right. And so I had a bit of a rocky couple years when I started college. And then the trailer for Frozen 2 came out. I hate this so much. I took one look at Elsa's redesign for Frozen 2 and I went, oh my goodness, I might be gay. It's so bad that that's what did it for me. Oh, that's what kicked me. It kicked me in the gut. So that started churning a lot. That really got me going even more into high gear of, maybe I'm gay. And then I got another crush on a girl. And I was still very much in denial that I just really admired her. I really just wanted to be her friend. That wasn't the case. I was so afraid of admitting that out loud. That would just be it. Because I'd been told my entire life that gay people can't be Christian. I want to say this now. Pardon the language. It's a tad extreme, but that is bullshit. Absolute, utter bullshit. But I'll get to that later after the story's done. And I remember it. Very surreal. The moment I said it out loud. I was at work. I had opened. It was like 6:45 in the morning and I was out in the parking lot. I was looking at the sky and I was praying, as I like to do that when it's just me, the sunrise, and God, because like it's early in the morning and there's no people around. What am I gonna do? I remember I looked up at the sky and I said, I have a crush on her. I do. And as soon as I admitted out loud, I had a crush on a girl. I felt this wave, like a dam breaking. The Holy Spirit, I know it was. I felt it sweep on me in peace and love, like a blanket, like a whole warm fire throughout my body. And I just kept hearing over and over again, I love you, it's okay. You're accepted. I accept you. And I heard that repeatedly over and over again. And I almost cried. The relief I felt knowing that it was okay. I'm okay. I am still loved. I am still accepted. That was November 2019. It's only been a matter of months since I came out to myself. And now that I have, the rapid acceptance has just filled me and changed me. And there was a brief moment of panic though, a little while after, wondering, can I still be Christian? Can I still dedicate myself to this? Or do I have to pick and choose? And the answer is no. I don't have to choose. I'm bisexual. That's what we're known for. We don't make choices well. So why do this? Why make a big public thing about it? Why make a show about it? Why bother to tell anyone when I could pass as a very good celibate, man-loving Christian woman? I have all the potential in my sexuality to hide the dirty bits from the rest of the church and the rest of the world. Like, I can just pretend. I can fake it till I make it. Because I can like boys, I can fall in love with a boy, I can marry a boy, no problem. The one thing that, if you know me personally, you probably know, I want to be myself so badly, all the time. I hate the idea of being stifled down and being dishonest about who I am. I highly value two character traits, and that's loyalty and that's honesty. I hate lying so much more than the average person. To live my life in the dark, afraid, ashamed, I'm not willing to do that. I was so desperate when I finally accepted myself, to find other people like me. Like, was this possible? Was being queer and Christian even something someone could be? I did find other people out there like me. I found Facebook groups. I found other coming out videos online. And I wanted to reach out so bad. Thing is, I even did. I made a freaking TikTok. I made one video. I made a TikTok about dealing with internalized homophobia while being religious. And that video was my first viral-ish. It wasn't really. It was like 10,000 views. And I got so much interaction. I got messages of people thanking me for being myself and saying I was Christian and queer. And I knew I couldn't let that sit. I had to talk about it. About how girls are freaking pretty. Girls and non-binary people and anyone on the gender spectrum. I don't care what you think about the gender spectrum. If you label it as like something, I will still think you're cute. People are pretty. And that doesn't make me disgusting. That doesn't make me inherently on my one-way ticket trip to hell. And I wish I knew that before, because when I was 16, between my junior and senior year of high school, in youth group, the freshman girls that were coming up into their freshman years from 8th grade, our youth group had like a night where we would host them and we'd like mentor them or be like examples. And we were in small groups. And one of the girls asked me if you could be gay and Christian. And I told her no. And two of those girls, at least, one of them I watched come out, and the girl who asked probably most definitely was. They were both probably queer. At least two queer girls in that group. And I had told them to their faces that being gay meant you couldn't be Christian. And that was 4 years ago, and I'm still so mad at myself for that. I can't forgive myself for that. Neither of those two go to church anymore. I don't know how many of those girls go to church anymore. But I know those two don't. And I can't help but feel responsible for that. Even if they forgot my words at the time and it didn't really matter, I still said that. If I had said yes, that might have made a difference. I won't ever know. But it was wrong. It was very wrong. And that's part of my motivation. Because this is going to go on YouTube. So if you're just wondering, you're questioning, and you don't know if you can stay in your faith because of who you experience attraction for, you can stay. You are welcome. You are accepted and you are valuable. God doesn't give up on anyone, especially not for something that's outside of their control. Being gay, I don't even know at this point. You could ask me, do I think actually that being gay is a sin? I don't know. I've heard so many arguments both ways. I grew up with it being wrong my entire life, and then I looked into it, and it's like, oh, there's mistranslations, it was taken out of context. At this point, I don't know. But also I've decided it doesn't matter. I am a child of God. I believe Jesus Christ existed. I believe he died on the cross for my sins, and I believe he rose again so that one day I could be with him in eternity. And that's what makes you a Christian. And the fact that I'm going to dedicate my life to God, that's what makes me a Christian, not my sexuality. My name is Danielle. I'm 20 years old. I'm queer. And I'm a child of God. And no one can take that away from me. And I don't remember if I had other points or not, but I think that'll do. Because I'm Christian. I like girls. I like non-binary people. I like boys. And God still loves me. Alrighty. I think that'll do. Oh no, my phone turned off. Is it still? Oh, thank God it's still recording. Okay. 3, 2,